Let us begin with a simple principle: getting more done in less time. This simple idea has had more impact on the modern world we live in than any single idea in history. It can be seen as the motivator, or outcome, of our most crucial decisions. Getting more done in less time has led to revolutions in society and in technology. The electric light bulb, the train, automobile and airplane, the telephone, TV, and the digital computer. All are motivators or effects of this simple notion. Modern life is mediated by technologies of efficiency built upon this one simple premise: getting more done in less time. In this sense, the fundamental decision of humankind is somehow related to time management. Whether we want to work less and play more, get things done, go somewhere, or learn something new, we must set aside a time for it. And with so many demands on our time these days, this organizational process is quite challenging and at times unfathomable. We call this personal struggle time management.
Often, this most essential process of human life is reduced to the rather mundane topic of scheduling, which has largely been turned over to technology.
Yet technology cannot effectively improve the decision-making process. We have realized it is time for something quite different. Relative time management is not a technology. Rather, it is a methodology. It can be applied to data generated by calendar gizmology, or it can work independently from machine apparatuses as a motivator of human decision-making in the present moment. You may ask, what are these techniques? How will they help me make better decisions? How do I learn relative time management?
There are three components to the technique of relative time management. First, RTM uses time gradients rather than time grids. Second, RTM prioritizes transformative time over absolute time. Third, RTM uses topologies to diagram or manage future events.
It is generally accepted that anything we do occurs at a time and a place. We will not question this existence, but rather we shall reevaluate our description. The calendar is usually presented these days as a grid of sorts. When we schedule, we put things in arrangement on the grid. The clock corresponds to the grid work, and the combination of these two technologies reveals an accurate description of past events. A new life began at 7:34 p.m. on May 22, 1970, in a hospital in Boston, Massachusetts. Yet when we take this very accurate technology and we look at the future, the dates and times are not actualized yet. The pregnant mother is given a due date, a mere speculation that is on average accurate between 2 weeks prior and 2 weeks after the specified point. This assumed inaccuracy is what we shall term the range, or gradient. But gradients are in fact more accurate than grids because they adapt to changes in information. Grids present an illusion of ordered aggregates which hyper-organize the real flow of life. Quantum physicists and scientists talk about two types of time. The lower level of time, which flows within the space-time blocks of the grid, is really more like a gradient. It is characterized by change, adaptation, growth, and variation. And we can understand this implicitly. We are all aware of the longest minute of our life, or conversely, how time flies when you're having fun. We all talk about eternal moments in our lives, but we lack a methodology to truly engage this aspect of time management.
Relative time management is the application of the latest scientific research on time to the everyday experiences of someone like you.
Now that we understand how gradients flow within the space-time blocks of the grid, we must differentiate between the two types of time. When something moves in time, there are two measurements we can make. First, by employing the grid, we can measure the change in physical location. We shall call this absolute time. But when we measure something more complex, such as the human being, we must consider the lower level as well. For this, we must use transformative time. Consider this. We can track the movements of a body in a defined space. For example, we can count the amount of times a worker gets up from his desk and goes to the bathroom. We can cite an unusual amount of times in the data, say 12 movements in one day. Absolute time ignores the transformative movements of the worker and focuses only on what is quantifiable and simple.
This is why in relative time management, we say manage your transformations. By shifting from grids to gradients, relative time management seeks to manage the personal transformations or transformative aspects of the system. We have examined the gradient, which is the basic building block of relative time management. We have described the quality of time within these gradients, which is transformative. Now we shall examine the patterns of self-organization on the macro level, called topologies.
Let's consider the leaf as it floats down the river. The flow of the leaf is, of course, not straight. It goes with the currents. We can disturb the flow of the river with a stick. Yet, if we remove the stick, the pattern, or topology, quickly resumes organization. Thus, relative time management searches for topologies when setting out to diagram a future course. But this is not so easy, for we are not detached observers looking at our lives from afar. We are fish in a fishbowl, and we cannot see the fishbowl.
So how then do we search out the topology and put ourselves in the flow of it?
First of all, we must recognize that the topology is a moving target in every way. The river is always flowing, so to speak. Thus, when topologies stop moving, they cease to exist. Next, we search for properties in our daily lives that remain invariant under temporal deformation. These properties may include space-time continuities, symmetries, synchronicities, or connections. Finally, once we are moving well within the system that we are trying to map, we can attempt to place ourselves symbolically within the meta-pattern using symbolic time. Symbolic time is always in accord with the topology, and the topology responds to symbolic time. Unfortunately, every so often the topology is severely deformed by disturbances in the natural flow of things. Yet, once the disturbance is removed, self-organization will quickly resume.
Relative time management can thus be understood as this battle of counter forces, time, which is movement and continual change, and management, which fixes the movement into a pattern or topology necessary for organization, direction, and stability. The forces of time and management are the key to getting more done in less time. Yet, by using relative time management, you can get more time to do less in these very busy modern times. I'm Kurt Wiebers. Thank you for listening to me.